So what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. So today we're gonna talk about Khamzat Chimaev and how he could basically become an even more dominant force in the UFC. So a lot of people have been criticizing his last performance against DDP, of course, with other things such as his inactivity as well. But today we're gonna talk about how he could improve his fighting style. So again, I've rewatched his fights against DDP, Whitaker, and Usman. So his last three fights, and especially in the DDP fight, I mean, first of all, the MMA fans or the casuals, how you would call them, you know, before the DDP fight, they were saying that yeah, Chimaev can't last full 5 rounds, and then he lasted full 5 rounds. Then they said, yeah, it's boring. Basically, we just want to say that no matter how good the fighter performs, there's always going to be the haters. It doesn't matter how much a fighter improves. And I'm not gonna speak here and say it was the most entertaining performance. But I've noticed that a lot of people were saying that he didn't try to finish the fight, which is basically wrong. There were multiple sequences where he tried to finish the fight, but nowadays these strikers, their grappling defense is really something that is coming up. They're getting to figure out these dominant wrestlers, or at least avoid getting submitted. There was a similar thing in the fight at UFC 322, Makachev versus Jack Della Maddalena, where basically Islam dominated the fight in every aspect, but JDM was just good enough to avoid being submitted. He fought off, I think like 4 or 5 submission attempts, and the DDP fight was pretty similar in that regard. And again, you could see the same thing, I mean, with obviously Whitaker, I mean, he literally broke his jaw, he dominated him the whole fight, and at the end broke his jaw even. But then the fight before that, where he fought against Usman, and had a dominant, I believe it was 10-9 or even 10-8 rounds, the first round. I mean, he took him down straight away, the chain wrestling in full effect again. And yeah, he tried to go for a rear naked choke there, but of course Usman recognized the danger and slammed him to the ground and was able to get out of that submission. But again, I think I've realized now after I've watched these fights again, that Chimaev usually goes for the same submissions. He obviously takes it back and he tries to go for some sort of face crank or rear naked choke. Either that or the Darce choke, which is pretty efficient. I mean, if he's good at it, why shouldn't he go for those submissions? But I've also rewatched a grappling session between him and Luke Rockhold. I think it was a while back, maybe just before the DDP fight, I think, a few months before. And it was quite interesting. He went for a leg lock at the beginning and even for an armbar, I believe, at some point. And that's pretty much what I've wanted to point out to. Instead of just going for the rear naked choke and the Darce choke at all times, he should be working on improving his jiu-jitsu and maybe, get in an armbar here and there or go for a leg lock. Because if he works on his jiu-jitsu and really improves this area, I think he could actually become the most dominant fighter that has ever been in the UFC. Because right now, of course, his wrestling is, in my opinion, the best in the UFC right now. But without the diverse jiu-jitsu skills, it's really gonna struggle against, fighters who really know to defend certain submissions well. Because now there's a ton of film about Chimaev because he's been in the UFC for a while now, and I really believe that if he focuses more on his jiu-jitsu skills, like for example training with Luke Rockhold or other black belts in the UFC, I think that could really improvise his game, and really, I would say, extinguish the stigma of him being a boring fighter, because I still think he's one of the most explosive fighters in the UFC. And yeah, of course, other people also say his striking, he should be striking more on the feet. But I think if you have such a dominant wrestling skill, you should use that and combine it with jiu-jitsu. I think you could build one of the most dominant fighters. Yeah, so I just wanted to make a quick video about that. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. See you.